Welcome to Christian Living in the End Times. I'm Jamie, a pastor, author, and teacher. Let's look at today Psalm 46, a tribulation psalm. Psalm 46, I believe it's a psalm for the Jews going through the 7-year tribulation. Psalm 46:1 says, "To the chief musician for the sons of Korah, a song upon Alamoth." Alamoth or Alamoth. Alamoth, I believe, would be a stringed instrument, perhaps to be played softly. I think it's more unlikely that it would be referred to as women singers, as some people say, because David had particularly the Levites as singers, and sometimes in the cross-reference passage to this is 1 Chronicles 15:20, because it has the same reference of Alamoth, the only other one that we have. And there in the context, the Levites were men singers, and so perhaps not to women singers, because some people think that word refers to that. But in 1 Chronicles 15:20, it says, with psalteries on Alamoth. Other instruments are in chapter 15 there at 1 Chronicles. And some that are mentioned with the singers are trumpets, cymbals, harps, and psalteries. Psalteries. Well, here, Alamoth is a title or the name of something, so we would understand it a name of an instrument. A psaltery. A psaltery. Well, it's an instrument with strings, like a zither, or if you've seen a dulcimer played, something like that, maybe with a higher sounding pitch on that, but also perhaps played softly and muted. We even have a hymn called Be Still My Soul, and if you listen to it played, it's played softly, reverently, carefully, like God is right there to help. Be still my soul, trusting in God. And that would be the theme of this psalm for the Jews going through the 7-year tribulation. Those who had missed out on the rapture, who were unbelievers, going through the 7-year tribulation. We know that at the end of the 7 years, all Israel is saved, but yet many of them get martyred too. And so during God's judgment on planet Earth, God's wrath poured out, the whole world attacking Israel and Jerusalem, well, they need hope. They need comfort. They need to see that God is right there to help them, even when the whole world is falling apart. So God says in this psalm, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. So God is our refuge, a place of safety for the Jews during the tribulation, a shelter from danger and protection. Many of them get killed, yes. Many of the believers on planet Earth get killed. And many people that are unbelievers get killed too, just for the great judgments that's going on. But the Jews need God's protection and a very present help during the tribulation. And yes, we certainly get application for that today, that today we know God is our refuge. He's our place of safety. He's helping us. He's very present with us today, helping us in our troubled times as well. There's plenty of application for us today, but it looks like the context would be for the Jews, for Israel, going through the tribulation and the great tribulation. Psalm 46 verse 2 says, therefore, what's it there for? Referencing back to that, because God is our refuge and strength and our very present help, we will not fear. Though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Well, that's crazy. You see, so yes, we could, I guess, say that spiritually speaking, that, well, even though everything's fallen apart, God helps us today. That's true, but is there ever a time that it looks like the earth might feel like it's going to be removed? With the mountains being carried into the midst of the sea, if it looks like that's going to happen? Well, yeah, we have earthquakes here or storms, but nothing like during the great tribulation that will happen. And that great tribulation is described in Revelation chapter 6, 14 through 17, which says, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. So this is like man standing upon the earth during the tribulation, looking up at the sky, and this is how things happened with what was happening during that context there of Revelation chapter 6. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And so now something has happened so that things are shaken. The earth is greatly perhaps hit and shaken. And every mountain and island were moved. That's something big. That's big to planet Earth. That would make you think that, wow, that the earth is going to be removed and the mountains being carried into the sea. Something's happening. Continuing on in Revelation 6, it says, "And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man." Sounds like pretty much everybody, doesn't it? Well, what did they do when this happened? When this great calamity happened? Hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, "Fall on us, hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb," the wrath of God, because it says the wrath of Jesus Christ. He's the Lamb. "For the great day of his wrath has come, and who shall be able to stand?" So I think during these terrible, terrible times that's happening on the earth, that there's going to be nothing to cling to except a great faith and a great faithful God, a great faith placed in a great faithful God. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Verse 3 says, "Though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof," Selah. Selah means pause, rest, respite. Though everything around you is going awry or falling apart, rest in God. Pause and rest in the Lord. Psalm 46 verse 4 says, "There is a river, the streams thereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High." The only city of God that's mentioned in the Bible is the city of Jerusalem. The city of Jerusalem. Yes, there's a city of Jerusalem over in Israel today, but God's not reigning there, and they're not glad. They're being attacked from their enemies around them. But Jerusalem is it. And when Christ comes and rules and reigns at the millennial kingdom at the second coming, he's going to rule and reign from Jerusalem. And then when he creates a new heaven and new earth, there's going to be a new Jerusalem. So Jerusalem is that city of God, city of God. So also we see and understand in some places in the Bible, in Ezekiel, I have a couple references here, but Ezekiel 47, starting in verse 1, Ezekiel 47:1, we have several verses that talk about when Christ comes back, what's he going to do there? What's he going to do when he comes back? He's going to change things. He's going to make things cleaned up and better and purified and give life. So Ezekiel describes this. "Afterward, he brought me again unto the door of the house." That's the temple, a temple being built there at the second coming. "And behold, waters issued out from under the threshold of the house eastward." So talking about a water coming out from the temple at the second coming when he comes back. "For the forefront of the house stood toward the east, and the waters," notice this, all these references to water at the second coming, "came down from under the right side of the house and at the south side of the altar. Then brought me he out of the way of the gate northward, and led me out of the way without unto the utter gate by the way that looketh eastward." And you think, what's this have to do with Psalm 46? Well, we're talking about these waters and a river that's coming out there, that the stream shall make glad the city of God. Some kind of water in Jerusalem making glad and giving life there. And Ezekiel is describing this in detail. Why would God give a prophecy so detailed if it's not going to happen like this? "Behold," Ezekiel says, "there ran out waters on the right side. And when the man that had the line in his hand," maybe an angel showing him these things, "went forth eastward, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he again brought me through the waters." Now here Ezekiel's walking through the water that's coming out from the temple at the second coming. The waters were to the ankles, not very high, pretty shallow still. Again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters. So he kind of keep going downstream. The waters were to the knees, so it's getting deeper. Again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through. The waters were to the loins. It's coming up to his waist. Afterward, he measured 1,000, kept going on downstream, and it was a river that I could not pass over. Oh, a river coming out of the temple where? In Jerusalem. In Jerusalem. The waters that's going to make glad. For people during the tribulation, they're looking at the second coming. For what's going to happen, it says in Ezekiel, for the waters were risen, waters to swim in, a river that could not be passed over. And he said unto me, that's how deep it was, Son of man, hast thou seen this? Then he brought me and caused me to return to the brink of the river. Again, talking about a river, God's temple in Jerusalem at the second coming. Don't you think the Jews in Jerusalem would look forward to this and say, I have something to look forward to. I have some hope. I can't wait for this tribulation to be over, and then we'll get there at that time. Help us to rest in God. Ezekiel goes on, now when I had returned, behold, at the bank of the river there were many trees on the one side and on the other. And he said unto me, these waters issue out toward the east country and go down into the desert, into the sea. That's the Dead Sea over there, the Dead Sea. So coming out of Jerusalem, going south, flowing into the Dead Sea, which bring forth into the sea, the water shall be healed. So the Dead Sea now can bring life, now it's just salty and hardly anything can live in there. But not at the second coming, not when Jesus comes again. He's all about life. He's all about life. And it shall come to pass that every living thing that liveth, which moveth, whitherso the waters, the rivers shall come, shall live, and there shall be a great multitude of fish. There's not fish over there now. There will be when he comes back. There'll be life. Because these waters shall come forth thither, and they shall be healed. Healed as far as they'll be life-giving, and not salty, and not where things can't live. And everything shall live whither the river cometh, and it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from En-gedi even to the En-gelium, and they shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kinds, as a fish of the great sea, exceeding many. So just like if you go fishing over in the Mediterranean Sea at the second coming during the millennial kingdom, when Christ comes back, you'll be able to go and fish in the Dead Sea. Maybe we should start calling it the future living sea, the living sea, because the waters are going to come out and they're going to heal. And that's why he says, there is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad Jerusalem, the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. Jesus Christ is God the Most High, and he shall live and rule and reign from Jerusalem. We know even in the New Jerusalem, after this old earth and the old heaven pass away, and the old Jerusalem pass away, God creates a new Jerusalem. Revelation 22, 1 and 2 says, now this is way yet in the future, not in the context of Psalm 46, but it says, and he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. And in the midst of it, on either side of the tree, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So even in the New Jerusalem, there be a pure river of water of life proceeding out of the throne of God. So that's what God's doing. That's what he's about. He's about life, and he's going to do these wonderful things. Psalm 46, 5 says, prior to that, we looked at the river would be something for the Jews to look forward to, something very real, very tangible, very hopeful during the tribulation. Now Psalm 46, 5 says, God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. So here we see that God is Jerusalem's help. God will help Israel, and he will not delay. Verse 6 says, the heathen raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. Well, when you read through the Great Tribulation passages in the Old Testament or Revelation or others, it looks like the earth is melting. It looks like everything is being destroyed. But the heathen raged. They don't want Christ. The kingdoms that were on this earth that are working with the Antichrist, they were moved. They were shaken. We already saw that the kings are hiding in the rocks and the dens of the earth, and they're afraid of the wrath of Jesus Christ. Psalm 2 talks about the heathen. Why do the heathen rage? Notice this, the same words. Why do the heathen rage? Psalm 2 also looks like it's a time where people are going against Christ during the tribulation, and then God sets his Son upon the throne who will defeat the kings at the second coming. Psalm 2 verse 1 says, "Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing?" It's useless, it's futile to go against Christ. "The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed." This probably is culminating in the Great Tribulation at the Battle of Armageddon. "And against his anointed," that's the Messiah, saying, "Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us." God is going to rule and reign, but the kings of the earth do not want the Lord to rule and reign. Psalm 46 verse 7 says, "The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge." So notice this, the God is with the Jews during the tribulation. And here, now we see during this psalm, refuge is mentioned twice, and Selah is mentioned twice. A place of protection and shelter and a rest. They need this during the tribulation. It just fits with the context of the tribulation. Psalm 46 verse 8 says, "Come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth." See, doesn't it sound like the tribulation? That's a fitting description of what God's going to do during the tribulation judgments. The earth is destroyed by the Lord. By the Lord. The desolations which the Lord, Jehovah, hath made in the earth. Remember, who opens the first seal of the scroll, the blueprint of the tribulation in Revelation? The Lamb, the wrath of the Lamb. Psalm 46:9 says, "He makes wars to cease unto the ends of the earth. He breaketh the bow and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burneth the chariot in the fire." When Christ comes back, he's going to rule and reign, and he's going to make peace on this earth. The Prince of Peace will make peace upon this earth. He'll make wars to cease. No more war. Well, if you turn on the news and see what's happening in Israel today, where missiles are trying to come in, and there's different people. She's in a battle and a war today. So no more war when Christ comes back for Israel and for the Jews. Isaiah chapter 2, 1 through 4 says, "The word that Isaiah the son of Amoz saw concerning" who? Concerning Judah and Jerusalem. So this is a prophecy in Isaiah 2 of Jerusalem and of course, Judah, of Israel. "And it shall come to pass in the last days," that's the tribulation, the last days for Israel, the 7 years of tribulation, Daniel's 70th week. What's going to happen? "That the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountain." So Christ will come at the end of the tribulation and set up his kingdom and establish his rule of authority, his royal residence and throne in Jerusalem. The Lord's house, the tabernacle, the temple, I should say, shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. Well, all nations are going to Israel during the Armageddon to wipe her out, but here they'll be going to Christ the King during the tribulation. "And many people shall go and say, Come ye, let us go to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of God of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways." See, this is not the church today, obviously. Uh, many people don't want God's ways today, but they will at the second coming. We will walk in the paths, his paths, for out of Zion, this Jerusalem, shall go forth the law. God is ruling through Christ. And the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among the nations. Yes, just like in Matthew 24:25, when he comes back, he'll judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people. And what's going to happen? They're going to keep fighting him? No. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. In other words, they'll take their instruments of warfare and make them instruments of agriculture. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. Well, during the tribulation, nation shall rise against nation, but not so in the millennial kingdom. Neither shall they learn war anymore. This is so important that it's virtually repeated in Micah 4:1-3. Since it's there, let's look at it. But in the last days, tribulation, second coming, it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established at the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and the people shall flow unto it, and many nations shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, and we'll walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke the nations afar off. Here it is again. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. And so, friends, here we see the same thing repeated in Isaiah 2 and Micah 4. Basically, is that he's going to break the bow. He makes wars to cease unto the end of the earth. Now we have a real time marker, I believe. We have, this must be the second coming in Psalm 46:9. Well, if that's the second coming, just prior to that, we're looking at desolations. Doesn't that look like the tribulation and the tribulation passages and judgments, friends? But what about he maketh the chariot to burn in fire? The chariot, he burneth the chariot in the fire. And so here he's burning something. He's burning their chariots. I believe also this could be the end part of the Gog-Magog invasion, or I should say maybe the results, the carryover from the Gog-Magog invasion. And so he also says, the Lord says in Ezekiel 39:6-9, Ezekiel 39:6-9, and I will send a fire on Magog, and among them that dwell carelessly in the isles, and they shall know that I am the Lord. So will I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name any more. And the heathen shall know that I am the Lord, the Holy One in Israel. This is Jesus Christ in the flesh, God, the Holy One in Israel. Behold, it is come, and it is done, saith the Lord. This is the day whereof I have spoken. I believe this is the second coming, or judgment upon Magog. And they shall dwell in the cities of Israel. They that dwell in the cities of Israel shall go forth and shall set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and the bucklers, a bigger shield, the bows and the arrows and the hand staves, looks like primitive wooden instruments perhaps, and the spears, and they shall burn them with fire 7 years. 7 years. I think this gives us a time marker. If the Lord comes back and destroys the nations, and he sets up his kingdom, and then there's a 75-day time period there, and everything seems to be good and fine after that. It could be that the Gog-Magog invasion is at the beginning of the tribulation, perhaps even during the second seal judgment, when war is taken, when peace is taken from the earth. So if they're burning the chariots in fire, here also we see they're burning these other weapons with fire 7 years. And so maybe that's the time period that's happening. They'll be burning during the tribulation years, and then the first several days weeks of the millennial kingdom. Excuse me. Finally, Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth." If Christ is ruling and reigning, this is God being exalted among the nations of the earth. So what should Israel do during the tribulation? Be still and know that I am God. That's what they should do. God will be exalted during the millennial kingdom with his great and powerful and glorious appearing at the second coming. Psalm 46:11 says, "The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob, the God of the Jews, the God of Israel is our refuge." Selah. Jacob is Israel. God's presence that's their help. Refuge is now mentioned the third time, and Selah is mentioned the third time. The third time. Be still, my soul, seems to be the great message of this wonderful psalm. How is your soul today, friend?